fantastic weekend, and start to the next week. Happy Easter to everyone that celebrates. So grateful that you are joining me. If you are watching live, go ahead, just drop a hashtag live in the comments. If you're watching the replay, drop a hashtag replay. Doesn't matter when you get the information. Live is, of course, always a little better, but definitely just getting the information is part of that 7-step signature system that we talk about so much. So I want to talk today about the concept of instant gratification and instant results. I know I've talked a little bit about that in the weeks past, but I really want to dive into that today and really kind of reconstruct our mindset to understand that anything worth having is worth working for. And this topic has come up over the last week so many times, both in my personal development as well as just conversations that I've had with people. And so I wanted to really dive into that today to really think about what it is that we're expecting when we start a journey or when we're on a journey, because we all know that getting the results we want a lot of times takes time. But in the world of Insta, meaning Instagram, instant gratification, instant success, we even have instant oatmeal, instant coffee, instant everything, right? And I think it's just kind of built up over time that we've subconsciously programmed ourselves to want results instantly. And that's nobody's fault. It's just the world we live in. But as I was shopping for a dress for an event that I have to attend, I was looking, and this is where it really kind of came up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, the world that we live in. I'm on Amazon, and I'm annoyed that a dress couldn't get here that I wanted until next week or the week after, because I need it by Monday or Tuesday when I leave for the event. And so it was just kind of funny to me, like, wow, what a world that we can place an order and it show up the next day, or sometimes even same day, right? We're so used to that now, but not that long ago, that wasn't a possibility. That wasn't the way we lived our lives. And I was talking to somebody about remembering when we would flip through the JCPenney or Sears catalog and circle the things we wanted and then wait for them to show up. And that wasn't a foreign concept. But now, oh my goodness, you tell me I have to wait more than a couple days for something, it's unheard of. And then we think about being able to instantly access whatever information that we want. We have a question, we Google it. Well, I remember having to look up things in the library, or, and I haven't always had the internet at my fingertips, just like most of us haven't, but we live in that world where now we're annoyed if we can't find what we want on the internet. And that's the world of Insta. And as I was listening to a YouTube video this morning, it was a Jim Rohn YouTube video, and he was telling the story of this farmer and how this farmer was out, and all of his neighbors were farmers, but he was really very diligent about farming, planting his crops and watering the crops and tending to the crops all through the season. And his neighbors would gather at the property line and just watch him and just wonder, what is he doing? Because he would just do little things every day. And they're just asking themselves and talking to each other, what is he doing? And kind of making fun of him. And I've seen this in business too. People start showing up for things. And I've seen it even in your workouts, right? When people start to make healthier decisions, people start to question. And that's what I really want to touch on today. But before I do that, I want to finish the story about the farmer. And so, he's just doing things that are just a little bit different, but he's showing up every day and he's doing something every day. And then when harvest time came, he had the best harvest out of anybody. And they asked him, "Man, what's your secret?" And he's like, "Well, I don't have a secret. You saw what I did, but you laughed at it. You made fun of it." Because nobody else was willing to put in the work to what he was doing. And I messed that story up a little bit, but the concept is the same. And, we think about in terms of working out, eating right, doing the things we need to do to be on a health journey. And that's what I really want to touch on today, because you're going to come across the people that we call quote unquote dream stealers. And these are the people that don't support your success, don't support your journey. And you have to be very careful about those people. And it's hard sometimes because those people can be the people that you're closest to. And when you're doing something out of the ordinary, right, it looks weird or it looks different than what they're used to, because you've made a commitment to plan ahead for your meals, to opt in to the meal plan that you set for yourself based on the education and the tracking, right? And you're planning ahead. So you're opting in. You're not willing to miss your workout. It's a non-negotiable that you get your 20 to 30 grams of protein in. It's a non-negotiable that you do your mindset work and your scripting, right? And a lot of times that makes people who are not doing these things, it makes them very uncomfortable. And the reason it makes them uncomfortable is because when it works, then what they have to now admit to themselves is that they could do it, but they just have chosen not to. And a lot of times it's way harder to admit to ourselves that we just weren't willing to put in the work than it is to claim that something doesn't work. And I want you to really think about that. What time in your life were you so obsessed with getting the results? And I'm not saying that you have to be so obsessed that you can't allow for anything else, right? This is a lifestyle change. It's not just you do something for a couple of months, but maybe you're a little bit more intentionally and laser focused for a month or two or 90 days. And when you get so laser focused, you do things that maybe you normally wouldn't do because you have opted in and you know what to do because you're getting the education. You're holding yourself accountable. You're tracking. You're changing your behaviors. You're celebrating your successes. And then you're giving back. And maybe what you're giving back is being an example to those people who are your doubters, because you're going to have people that it's going to make uncomfortable when you say, "Sorry, I can't do X, Y, and Z because." And a lot of times you don't even need to give them the because, right? It's just sorry, no. No is a complete sentence. And I know we've said that before. And I'm not knocking anybody. I have a hard time saying no a lot of times. But when something doesn't align with your current goals, sometimes you have to make a change. I had to switch powerlifting coaches because the coach that I had wasn't available when I could go. And so it no longer aligned because I had other things that I had to make a priority, but I also know that my physical activity and my powerlifting and my weight, that's a non-negotiable. So I just had to adjust and shift my schedule and find something that worked for my schedule. Right? I just had to shift and pivot. It wasn't a matter of, because otherwise to fit into that schedule, I would have had to shift other things in my life that are also non-negotiables. And so that's where having those non-negotiables is incredibly important, because you have to know what are you not willing to give up. And then what's the cost if you do give it up, right? If I gave up my powerlifting, well, guess what? That negates my entire health journey, right? That's really important to me. So I'm not willing to give it up, but I had to be willing to give up the specific times I was doing it and shift those. So now I still do the workouts, but I do them at different times. And that's okay, right? And I also know that because of my schedule and the businesses that I'm building, sometimes I have to give up sleep some days because I have to get up at 4 to go do cardio, but then I might be up until late the night before doing calls or whatever. And I know that. So it's important that I make that list of non negotiables. And that a lot of people don't understand that. And that's my point, right? Sometimes people don't understand what it is you're doing, but it doesn't matter as long as you understand it. You've written the vision and made it plain, and you've decided what your non negotiables are so that when somebody approaches you and questions, is it worth it? Why are you doing this? Right? We understand in our mindset, we don't live in the world of instant success. We know that reaching our goals takes time. And so the concepts that we're having to fight and change is that concept of instant gratification. That's why it's so important for step number 6, celebrate all wins and track all wins. I don't know if you could just hear the really loud thunder, but that was thunder if you heard it. But it's so important to track all your wins because that's the instant gratification that we get. And so that's why it's so important. Remember, behavior that receives attention is behavior that's repeated. And so guess what? You passed on something that wasn't going to move you towards your goals. Celebrate that. You stayed on plan with your eating all day today. Celebrate that. Give it attention. Because that's where that instant gratification can come in and we can start to combat, because you're not going to lose 50 pounds in a week. It's not going to happen. So we have to celebrate the little wins that are going to add up to get us to those big wins. And so that's why we say you lost 1 pound 50 times. Because you can celebrate that 1 pound. You can celebrate those little stepping stones. Because even though it might seem small, it's huge in the world of instant gratification. And I think that's where a lot of times, you see people posting about their workouts. You see people posting their healthy meals and all of that because we live in that world of instant gratification. Well, that's their way of celebrating themselves, recognizing themselves for making good decisions. So I want you to really think about where in your life are you having those people that come in and maybe they're not as supportive as you would like them to be. And that's where you have to get really clear with yourself on understanding that it's probably because they know that when you have success, it will simply mean that they chose not to do those things and they have to face themselves at that point. Because they're hoping it doesn't work. Because then that means that they don't have to do it. And here's the reality. Nobody has to do it. But when you get the results that they want because you're willing to put in the work that they weren't willing to put in, it makes people uncomfortable. And that's okay because you're not here to make people comfortable. You're here to just do what you need to do to take care of yourself and reach your own goals. And so you have to decide what your non-negotiables are. And you have to start tracking and celebrating all of your wins so that you can trick your mind into getting that instant gratification so that it holds on just a little bit longer. So then your success can start to compound over time, because it is a compound. It's not linear. It's going to go like this and then shoot up, right? All of a sudden you're going to wake up one day and, oh my gosh, look how far you've come, without even really realizing it. Those daily disciplines repeated day after day lead to that compound effect of success. But those daily neglects, compounded over time, lead to that failure, right? So it's easy to do, easy not to do. We talked about that. But it's important that you have those non-negotiables, and that in the world of instant everything, you find a way to instantly celebrate the things that are going right long enough to be able to celebrate the long-term goals. All right. So I want you to really think about, is there anyone in your life that is maybe faced with that? Hey, if they're successful, that means I just didn't do it. Or and you may not have a great support system, and that's okay. This is why we have this community. You're here, right? And so understand that you have to have those non-negotiables. Trick your subconscious mind. Do the personal development. We've talked so much about personal development the last couple of weeks, because that is going to allow you to stay motivated enough, long enough, to create those habits that are going to compound over time to lead you to that life of success. All right. So we will not have class next Sunday. I will actually be traveling. So make sure you watch the replay. This would be a good one to watch again. I think the concepts of this, I've heard it several times over the last week, and it really took a few days to sink in. So this one would be a really good one. Any of them would be good. Go back, catch up on the ones that you've missed if you've missed any. And we'll be back here on April the 19th. April the 19th at 7 p.m. Eastern. All right. So until then, I will see you on text message. I'll see you in the comments, and see you on our coaching sessions. If you are in a program, if you are not, and you are needing to get back into one, please feel free to reach out, and we will see what makes the most sense. But so grateful for each and every one of you. Again, happy Easter if you celebrate, but proud of you all for showing up, whether it's live or in the replay. And I'm wishing you all amazing success this week and next week. And I will see you back here on the 19th.